In fact, Henry's asked this question a couple times. It's about just being consistent, making people accountable, and then trying to solve problems that give you a chance to win the next game. That's what this is. So, you know, if you look at us, I mean, there's a couple obvious things that jump out. I think number one, you have to talk about slow starts to games, right? We've scored 0, 3, 3, 7, and 14 in the last 5 games in the first half. You go back and think about that. 0, 3, 3, 7, and we had 14 against Colorado State. Easy to identify that. You know, every coach in the country is talking about starting the game fast. A lot of different things you can do. You know, we've all been there where you change practice up and you start immediately when you go out there in team, so it's offense against defense. We've changed pregame up in the past. The bottom line, it's the same thing that gets you early in the game as what gets you at some point late in the game. And just through individual improvement, you're going to start the game better and consistent play. But there's no question that early in the game that's hurting us, particularly with a fragile team that needs confidence. You know, I could go back to each situation that we've broken down. We've turned the ball over several times. Saturday was another one of those. The week before against Wyoming, we turned it over at the 34-yard line at Wyoming. We threw a slant into a cloud look. They ran it back for a touchdown Saturday, Hawaii. We've missed a couple field goals. We've given up big plays on offense. So it's easy to see, it's easy to say, state the obvious as a coach that we need to start the game faster. Now, how do we do that? We continue to coach. We continue to positively identify mistakes, positively identify technique, things that break down, positively identify decision making, and we make an emphasis about it. But there's no magic formula or we wouldn't have started the game poorly. So that's one thing for sure. You know, I think the second thing you see kind of on that same state the obvious thing is anytime you can create a turnover, right? Anytime you create a turnover, that propels your team. You know, it feeds your entire football team. You know, we finally get an interception out here by Aaron Austin against Hawaii. 2 plays later, it's no coincidence that Amari Davis goes 67 yards for a touchdown. Obvious, right? We need to intercept the ball more. We've had 1 interception from a defensive back. We probably had 4 opportunities, quite honestly. 1 was a gimme late in the game that could have changed the game. Easy to say, right? Easy to identify those things. So we are identifying those things. It's how do we fix them? And I think that's through consistency. I think that's through staying positive. I think that's through coach them up, don't coach them down, and taking accountability as coaches across the board. And that's how we've approached this. So I am pleased. I mean, very pleased with the effort. Very pleased when you're down 35-3 against Hawaii that you can outscore them 28-10. I know, you know, when you're losing, you kind of search around for little positives, but that was a positive. You look at Nevada, a 4-4 team. You go through their schedule. They beat Purdue. They beat Purdue the first game of the year at home. That's a big win. Even though Purdue's a 2-6 team now, that's a big win. Second game, they go to Oregon. Oregon now, after losing their first game to Auburn, has rattled off 7 straight. You know, they get snowballed at Oregon like most of us would. A big win for them is against Weber State. Weber State's a good team. They're 6-2. Their only losses are to Nevada and 6-0 to San Diego State in the first game of the year. They go beat UTEP. Anytime you win on the road, that's a big win. Then they get into the Hawaii thing, right? Hawaii comes to town. Hawaii's on fire, as Hawaii can do. They put it on them pretty good. Then they've played, you know, a couple games back-to-back against good teams on the road. Utah State and then Wyoming, 2 good teams. So they're a team like us that, you know, their quarterback situation, They started number 12 early in the year, number 13 played, number 16 was the starter. He got suspended. They're looking for consistency on offense, a lot like us. They've done a lot of really good things on offense. They probably feel they should be better playing better on offense, kind of like us. Both defenses give up 37.3 or something a game. Two very similar teams. They had the big win against San Jose State. I think that was the week after we played San Jose State. So it's two similar teams. I'm sure they're looking to get back on track. I'm sure they're talking about starting the game early to get confidence, particularly on offense. So it's it's a game that's big. It's the game that's big for both teams. So with that said, man, Henry, I'm gonna have you start this thing off. Are you ready? Are you prepared?
I'm ready, Coach.
We're talking about starting the game. We're talking about starting the game fast, right? I'm going to go to the guy that I know. I'm going to ride that horse that I know will get us out of the gate and rolling here.
I'll start with, I'm out in left field asking this question. Whether we have one more game to coach or one more game to play, players, what are they really playing for? There's no title to look at. There's no bowl game. What's inside that player to say, gee, this game's fun. I don't want to let go of it.
Yeah.
I wish Henry T had one more game.
I hear
You know?
I hear
With that philosophy, go the rest of the way.
That's it. You're right. I mean, these opportunities are fleeting. A lot of times you say on Saturday's game day, listen, man, you're exchanging one day of your life for this. One day of your life you're exchanging for this right now. But we all know really that's more than one day of your life because you don't get to do that very long. And again, I think inside those walls, and this isn't just us, this is Nevada, and this is, you really do, as a college football coach, not individually, that people could actually see the process that goes on and the accountability factor and the positivity, but not afraid to correct things. I mean, the environment is so good within a college football team because at the end of the day, all you have are those people in there with you inside those walls. So there's a camaraderie. Again, I just don't think college coaches, and I've been all over the country, particularly when I was with ESPN, watching it happen on site at places, they don't get near the credit, nor do these players, of how they step up, man up, face challenges in the face. Not many people experience what 35-3 is down at halftime against Hawaii with a team, like I said, that could score 100 on you and would score 100 on you, to rally back up and say, okay, we got to go stop them now. We got to turn this thing around. I mean, those are things I think that people don't see about athletics. I think those are things that really are the benefit of athletics. There's so much cynical nature out there about athletics. There's so much cynicism right now. But man, inside those walls, to see how people appreciate, man up, even when you're 2-6, it's pretty impressive to me. It's pretty impressive to me how guys approach things.
Coach, follow up on that question. I played college football, and
Did you?
I actually did.
Is that the first time I've heard Henry tell me that?
I
have heard that before, but I appreciate that very much.
Experience in playing that game, knowing what it's like to be in that locker room, playing your last game, and it is it's a great feeling. And you're in there with the coaches, and you're giving all you have, 110%. And that rally in the fourth quarter was pretty special for me to watch because those guys did not give up. And it was a great rally. It came close, and basically just take 2 or 3 plays away from that game, and you win. So that's basically. But I experienced that as a player, and I can relate to you on that.
Marty, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You're right. And as I said after the game, you walk out of there with a pulse. You walk out of there with a heartbeat. And most of all, you walk out of there wanting to see your guys play again. You walk out of there wanting to see them play again, and you're rooting for them. Where we all know if it just bottoms out on you, it's hard to say that. You'll rally by the next day, but, I appreciate that, man. This is, it is real life, and it is real life lessons. you know, and I was thinking this morning driving in, you know, pulling in here, man, it's dark outside. It's relatively cold outside for this part of the country. And each one of us pulling into that building every day, individually, each one of those kids walking down that hillside into that building, how each one of us has to motivate ourselves and each one of us have to stay due diligent to what we're trying to do and do it for each other. And that is the intangible things about it, this game. So I tease you a little bit, but I do appreciate that because you've been there, man. It's not a whole lot of other people. There's many people hoping you fail, or maybe more hoping you fail than hope you succeed. That's the cynical nature of all of it. That's what this profession is, and this is what this is, man. You're kind of on that island with a bunch of guys that you appreciate being on that island with. So I knew you would get this thing rolling in a philosophical. You got any Kleenex so I can wipe my damn eyes right here?
Van's going to talk about his playing days next.
Yeah. Van, you gonna talk about your basketball days? We just go right down, man. Let's just, turn those cameras off, man. Hey, you got a couple beers back there? Let's just break this thing out now. Let's get down to it now. Yeah, I hear you.
Coach, I was going to ask you, Trey Hall, I know he's back up to Tabaka. Two things. How is he as a quarterback? What do you get from him, and who's behind him should he have to go to a third?
Yeah, I think a great question you bring up, Van. We thought about putting Trey in the Hawaii game. When the game, you could see the outcome of the game was decided. We have to get Tavaka Toyota back to games. He has to, in the evolution of him, he has to play back to back games. Now, he controls that. Injury's a factor. That's hurt him in the past. Poor performance where we yank him has been there in the past. But truthfully, our football team depends on him being able to consistently get some games under his belt. You know, we're comfortable with Trey Hall. I asked Joe Daly today on the field, I said, listen, just from a read standpoint, just on reads, take the RPO run pass stuff. Tavaka and Trey are very close on that as far as just being able to function consistently. Trey Hall may be a little better in the drop back game than Tavaka when it comes to making reads in the drop back game. So he's very close. It's just that we have to stop this carousel a little bit. And that kid needs reps, Tavaka. Now he's got to stay healthy and he's got to play well enough where we keep him in there. But that's the whole thing right now we're dealing with.
Who would be number 3?
I'm not going to disclose that. No, I'm not going to disclose that, man, because if it's number 3, there is a specific package for him. Specific, you know, and if I say who it is, you're probably going to know what the package is.
Coach, Hawaii brought a unique challenge because they go for it so much on 4th down, but just over the course of the year, the 3rd and long situations where they're converting a lot of these first downs, is there anything consistent there that's breaking down?
Yeah, there absolutely is, and I don't say this to deflect to players. I mean, this is all of us trying to solve this as we get a little more seasoned as a secondary, but can we make a play on the ball? Can we make a play on the ball and go, again, I said after the game, can we make as many plays on them that they make on us? And right now, we can't. We can't. We're getting a little bit better, you know, but right now, we just aren't making the same kind of plays with the ball in the air. Not that we haven't made a couple, but the fact that we have 1 interception by a defensive back, we only have 2 for the year, speaks volumes. And being able to make plays in that back end is no secret. You know, we're at the point in the season where we know ourselves, our opponents know us. We've had some matchup situations that we got to continue to just help our guys and put our guys with the best chance they have from a technique standpoint, confidence standpoint, repetition standpoint to make those plays. That's a glaring thing that's been a problem for us, just making plays on the back end.
Coach, you talked a little bit about this in the past, about the NCAA allowing kids to make money off their likeness. Well, today became official. They're going to allow kids to do that. I'm just curious what you think about that.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna worry about feeding them first, to be quite honest. I think our world's a little different. Again, I don't want to deflect. I don't want to be flippant about it. That doesn't apply to us, Will. You know, if it does, absolutely, absolutely. If a kid's likeness is generating high income or millions of dollars, but truthfully, I'm just trying to feed our guys. You know, I got a whole different world we live in, truthfully, being dead honest. You know, so absolutely. You know, if I'm in another place and there's a guy's likenesses and those numbers are going off those racks, like when we were at Notre Dame, they restocked the bookstore 4 or 5 times on Saturday mornings. They actually would start, open it, people would sell it out, they would shut it down, people would wait in line, they'd open up it again, they'd sell it out, they'd open it up again. Absolutely, absolutely, they should be compensated for that. But that's a whole different world than we live in here.
Sticking with the philosophical theme, when you start thinking about your legacy as a coach and a broadcaster, what would you like people to say about it?
Wow. Worked at it, worked at it, worked at it. I think if anybody that was around me in either one of those two professions would say worked his butt off, put everything he had into it, and did it for the right reasons. You know, never did it to try to make money, never did it to try to get the next job or make the next bump. In fact, I've probably stayed too long on jobs, a couple times, you know, but worked his butt off. Learned that from his dad and his mom. Neither one of them ever graduated from high school. Just learned to work. Appreciate that.
Coach, the last play, almost the last play of the game, Tabaka threw the double coverage, and it seems like we're going in double coverage all the time, and I don't understand why are we doing this.
That was bad. You know, I hated to see us end the game. I hated to see him end the game by doing that. That was so reckless, and it was second down. There was no reason to do that. Again, it is, you know, it is when the dust settles, and I've said this before. Will our quarterback be consistent enough and accurate enough in the big picture for us to win games here? And at this moment right now, as all the dust kind of settles here in the end of the season, the answer is no. We've not been able to capture that, right? We've not been able to capture the quarterback being consistent enough, accurate enough, over and over and over again. And not to put it all on the quarterback, but that's such a high percentage of our struggles right now, quite honestly. You know, we've been through 3 of them now this year. Again, you go back to last year. You know, it's been that revolving door at quarterback. And, you know, Tavaka's, if you want to call it legacy, will totally come down to, can he stay healthy enough and can he play well enough to get through the inconsistency? That's what it's all going to be. But you saw it. I mean, that jumped out right there and bit us. And he had made some progress in the second half, and it's like, oh no, did that just happen? Where are we in this? That hurts.
Coach, as far as Nevada goes, what do you feel like you guys have to do right to come away with a road win? And how much would that road win mean? Like, that could be like just energy in your veins and looking at the schedule. If you win your next 4, you're bowl eligible.
Yeah, I just want to win a game for these kids and everybody, you know, hell, for you guys. You know, I'd like to come in here and talk about, hey, we just won a game, you know. Let's be honest. You'd like to sit here and ask questions about us just winning a game. So I'm keeping it just as narrow as that. I think it's 2 teams that are probably pretty evenly matched. I think they'll throw the ball on us. They're just like everybody. That's kind of the recipe, to come out and throw the ball. You know, can we improve in the back end? And then us being balanced on offense. I mean, there's nothing dramatic, Van, of, yeah, I could easily say, let's start the game fast, kind of in the point I made early. okay, they want to start the game fast. I think it's just, again, man, can we play better? Can we play better for a longer period of time? You know, a longer period of time, and particularly when the game's in the balance, when the game really matters. You know, are we just a team that when we get behind, okay, man, they look pretty good there at the end, you know, enough. Can we do it at the start of the game, consistently throughout the game, right?
Coach, just going back to Aaron Austin, I mean, he's pretty much every week he's had some big impact play, and he's been one of the better linemen all year. But just in between those big plays, what is it that he does so well?
Fights. He's tough. He's tough. He's not very big, but he loves football. He's active. I mean, he's active, and he's been a pleasure, man. Kind of though the problem, you know, it's his last year. And that you bring up, I mean, I think we should probably just mention some positives from the Hawaii game. You know, Jacoby, I always want to call him Jacoby Greer.
Yeah.
Jacoby Hearn continues, even though he doesn't do everything right, the productivity we get from Jacoby. Mo on defense jumps out and plays his butt off. I mean, Amari Davis, you know, I said it earlier in the year that I thought more quickness, more breakaway would come as he gets in shape. I mean, he looked re-energized. I mean, he ran for over 200 yards now. Jordan Crest jumped up again. Ume played very well. We got Jay Griffin back in the mix a little bit. Really unfortunate that Aaron Molina got hurt on the second play, I think it was, of the game. He had an unbelievable week of practice last week. I mean that. He gets hurt on the second play. Our thing is, and I told some of those guys I just said today, starting with Tavaka, can you string this game, this game, this game, and this game together now? Can you do it again and again and again and again? Back to consistency. But, you know, our punter, he continues to be like the pooch punt. I don't know what the stats are.
He actually leads the nation in punts inside the 25 and percentage of his punts inside the 20.
Yeah.
He leads the nation in total
Nice.
and percentage.
Nice. And he's a guy with a strong leg that if he was selfish, you know how that works now. They're all worried about that distance and that average. He could be banging that thing out of the end zone. You know, so there's a lot of positives inside. Bryson Curl with 2 kickoff returns. We finally were able to get a couple opportunities in kickoff return, 2 big kickoff returns. DeJean Rogers, 2 punt returns. First one he danced around a little bit east and west. Second one he got it corrected, went north and south and had 17 yards. You know, offensive line. You know, I think our offensive line is pretty solid. I think it's pretty solid. You know, so there are some positives in there. There are some reasons for optimism. Can we put it together long enough? Consistent enough. That's us right now. That's us.
Anything else?
No, I had a question.
Oh, yeah, go.
No, but you answered it. Bryson Carroll wanted to just say that, there's always something about that guy. He, you know, getting the 200 yards rushing, now he does this kickoff return. He's just a really,
I agree.
really
He's going to find a
surprising.
way to be productive somehow. And, you know, again. All right, guys, we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, Henry. You knew you'd kick it off, man.